Hello everyone, this is me, Mr. Big T Anderson, and today we're doing a fanfiction reading from the Flash fandom called A Stitch Above the Rest. This is done by ChimeraDragon. Now, for those who are new to this whole thing, I like fanfictions, I read them, and hopefully they get kudos from the people who listen to it, and they click the links down below and give good reviews and give love. That's pretty much it. I am just Schmucky Duck reading this. So, with that, this is A Stitch Above the Rest. "What are you doing?" Mick asked, voice low and brow furrowed in confusion. "Knitting. What does it look like?" Len replied with a raised eyebrow, and a look that suggested he was questioning Mick's eyesight or intelligence, and he just didn't decide which yet. His long, slender fingers moved efficiently as he worked, eyes scanning over a screen in front of him instead of the yarn around his fingers. "Okay, so I'm not hallucinating," Mick drawled, amused at his partner's sass. "But why are you knitting?" "Because I felt like learning. You should always keep learning." Len replied with a raised eyebrow as his fingers continued to move. The ball of yarn in the bag next to Leonard got smaller as the project in his hand seemed to get bigger. Mick watched, fascinated by the ebb and flow of the motions to create something. He tried to figure out what the shape was, but Len kept moving the project around, flipping and turning it to add or subtract stitches as he went, eyes still on the screen before him. Len reached up occasionally to tap the screen before his hands went back to his project. "Can I help you with something, Mick?" Len asked, tone slightly exasperated as he paused the movements of his hands to look up. "What are you making?" Mick asked, voice slightly breathless as he smiled up at Len. He loved watching his partner work, whether it was on a heist or just making adjustments to the cold gun. It didn't matter. Watching Leonard Snart work was one of Mick's favorite hobbies. Len sighed and shook his head as he looked back down to the project in his hands. "I was going to save this for later." "If you don't want to tell me, you don't have to," Mick offered quickly, unwilling to make the other feel obligated to tell him what he'd been doing with the yarn. Watching Len was better than knowing the outcome. His focus and skill were second to none. "Catch," Len said with a smirk as he tossed a jangling tube of yarn at Mick before he went back to work. "I just finished those. This." He held up the yarn and needles in his hands. "Isn't going to be done for a while longer, but you can try those on." Mick looked at the soft yarn that was half covered in shiny metal. He realized there were two things in his lap, and he carefully extracted one from the other. A closer look revealed what looked like metal scales on one side of each of the yarn tubes. He looked from Len to the projects in his hands for a moment before what he had said sunk in. He quickly found the end of one of the tubes and realized they had to be gloves. He looked at the direction of the scales and pulled one of the obviously fingerless gloves on. It fit perfectly, and he made short work of putting the other on. He flexed his hands, noting the fit was perfect. Len made them so that was given on any day of the week and moved with him. The yarn was something he'd never seen before, but was soft and strong, while the scales were lightweight and variegated from black towards his fingers and fading to a deep red. "Well?" Len asked as he looked up from the screen to see the amazed and happy expression on Mick's face. "They're perfect," Mick breathed, amazement clearly evident in his voice as he flexed his hands and admired the play of light over the scales on the gloves. "You're amazing." "I'm glad you like them. The yarn is a new synthetic polymer that Cisco asked us to try out for heat resistance, and the scales are some neo-titanium material that's supposed to be impervious to almost anything. I figured with winter coming that I'd have you test the materials out." Len offered. A faint hint of color dusted his cheeks. "And you thought making me gloves was the most efficient way to do that?" Mick asked with a raised eyebrow of his own. "I was bored. We're trying to be good, aren't we? Besides, I think they add a bit of flair to your usual outfit. Makes you a little more intimidating. With the metal and the shine that comes off of it, I'm imagining what it'll look like with firelight glinting off of it." Len countered with a pout, albeit one only Mick would even know was there. "You're adorable." Mick replied without heat or a hint of a tease. "Shut up." And go light something on fire with those while I finish your dumb scarf, you pyro. Len grouched, fingers moving quickly once more. Mick cackled as he walked off to do as he'd been told, happy with his new gloves. He missed the look of contentment on Len's face as he went out the door. And that was it. It was a shorter fan fiction, but it was a stitch above the rest. And really, you can look at this from multiple ways. Brothers, something more. In any case, it was a fun little thing to read, and I hope you guys enjoyed my reading of it. So, if you liked my reading, link down below. If you liked the story, click the link and give the author some love, because otherwise they don't know what they're doing right. And with that, I will see you all next time. Ta-ta for now.